If you want to get a job at the IRS, let's go over what worked for me when I worked there. I'm Juliana, and I am an enrolled agent living in Texas. I worked at the IRS for almost a decade, and now I have my master's in taxation, and I like to answer questions about my time and experiences at the IRS, as well as things that you may encounter either with the IRS or tax in general. So if any of that interests you, then come along. Once upon a time, I got laid off from a job. I was fresh out of college. I got a job at a CPA firm, and I had no experience. I didn't really know what I was doing, and the economy went down. I got laid off. It happens. I put feelers out everywhere, but I had wanted to work at the IRS. I applied to all the jobs, not knowing what any of them were, and I got hired as a customer service person on the phones. It basically was terrifying, but all I did was apply online. USA Jobs is the only place I am personally aware of that you can apply. I kind of accidentally got that job because I didn't know what I was doing, and to qualify for unemployment in the state that I was in at the time, you have to have a certain number of contacts a week showing that you are, trying to get a job, and I legitimately was. And so I just kind of followed up until they said, "You're hired, here's your start date." And it's like, oh, okay. So I got my foot in the door, did that for less than a year, and applied internally to be a revenue agent. I got the job. I moved and started work. Moved a couple more times during that time. Learned how to apply internally to improve my chances of getting hired. So I want to show you, because I don't know how to use the green screen on TikTok. I'm not that fancy yet. Eventually I'll figure it out, but I wanted to show you examples of my regular resume and my IRS tailored resume and why they're different. So here basically is regular resume. It has my work history, some software skills that I have accumulated over the years, brief thing on job-related training that might apply depending on what I'm applying for. I tailor it per job that I've applied for. At the very end, I have my education. Depending on if you're starting out, you might want that at the beginning. But for me, my experience is now more relevant than my education, as I am mid-career. But I don't plan on changing jobs, maybe ever. I like where I'm at. When I was at the IRS, I learned that kind of resume didn't help me. It was too brief, and they're looking for very specific things, how you would fit in a particular job. So my IRS resume is very long, very detailed, and it worked specifically for the IRS. So I have a lot of the same things, but I have a lot of software specific things that is custom to the IRS. I have things here about different types of taxation I have worked on, specific IRS tailored things like the IRDM, which is information reporting and document matching project. These are things that I worked on internally. NRP projects. If you are familiar with QuickBooks, that is always helpful if you want to be a revenue agent, a revenue officer. Put things like that on there. If you have certificates in something, helpful. I then put down job related, things that I worked on at the job that might help out. So this page, I have full paragraphs. Never do this on a resume, but this works for the IRS. It worked for me. I have down flow through entities, exactly what I did. I have C corporations, summonses, fraud. If you have a background in fraud, if you've taken classes on it, if you know about it, if you have a certificate, that is helpful to talk about. If you have a lot of experience searching and hunting down income, if you have something to do with employment taxes, backup withholding, If you know anything about penalties, if you've worked with the IRS in any capacity, put that down. I also put down things that I volunteered for within the IRS. There's a lot of things that are required and then other things that you can volunteer for. I volunteered to be like one of the QuickBooks specialists in my group. I got to take a QuickBooks class, learn about that when a POA or a taxpayer wanted to provide QuickBooks, like on a flash drive, like the actual data, I would be able to then download it for people in my group. Because it costs money every time you put like QuickBooks on someone's computer, so everyone didn't automatically get it. There was like a specialist in the group. I put down, and then at the end I have the different jobs I had previously that may be relevant, and at the end, once again, I have my education. At that time, I didn't have a master's, so I just have my bachelor's on there. So that's how I tailored my personal resumes. That helped me. And while I only applied internally to other jobs, I got a promotion that way. I was able to become a revenue agent that way. You also want to use buzzwords, keywords from the actual job listing. If they're looking for employment tax specialists, talk about employment taxes. Use the specific forms. Their computers start to weed out people initially. At least when you apply internally, it's a number system. They're trying to be as objective as possible. The top 4 numbers get interviews. I'm guessing if you're applying externally, possibly more people get interviews than just the top 4. But it's very possible their computers weed out people at the beginning. If you have experience doing a large number of things, put all of that down. If it asks you questions, have you done this? Have you done this? If you haven't done those things, try and go do them. Get experience so you can say at least, yes, I've done it at least once. That's helpful. It helps improve your numbers. It might get you an interview where you can then communicate the things you know and don't know. I was very open at all of my interviews, the things I didn't know, and they can train you. They can train you on skills and knowledge. They can't train you on how to get along with people, how to ask questions. So if you are very open about, hey, I don't know this thing, I'm willing to learn, I want to learn, I ask questions, I communicate well, I have good customer service skills, those types of things are looked for by the management. Hopefully that helps if any of you are interested in applying.